Oh, yeah, sorry about that. Calling the public meeting to order. Here to, any comments regarding the proposed Aranzas County 2023 budget? Probably a good idea. Thank you, ma'am. Roll call.
Here. Here.
Russo.
Here. Judge Mills.
Here. We do have a quorum. So any comments on the proposed Aranzas County 2023 tax budget?
I have some questions. If anybody in the public has any questions, we'll hear those first. Yes.
Anybody on Zoom? Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. And to be honest, I've only had a short while to look at this, but I have some questions reflective of the last time we visited this budget, which was on August 15th. The first concerns department number 409. It's on page 13. And the second line item, salary, regular full-time employees. It went from 92,228 on the 815 version to 96,940 on this version.
I'm not following you yet. You're on page 13.
Mhm. And then
Yeah.
salary,
Okay, I got it.
regular full-time employees.
115, okay. No, that's, sorry. 103.
And I wanted to know what employees are included in that line item of regular full-time employees in Department 409.
That should be Tracy and. Commissioner Russo, we will have to look at that. It looks like we possibly have that in both of them. Because it should be just Tracy, part of Jennifer Herb's, and that would be it. So that one we will have to look at.
All right, thank you.
Does that have anything to do with the Harvey bonus, or is this a completely different issue?
No, this would be a different issue because
Okay.
that would actually be in the other salary. In the 89,000 above it, it's in 102. This could also answer your question, Commissioner, about the difference in why some of it is different, why we didn't just double between the 2.5%.
So the public will know what we're talking about. I wondered why the estimate of the increase in the budget for a proposed 2.5% COLA was not exactly half what the estimate of cost would be for a 5% COLA. So the understanding being now today that there's a different way of calculating those two because people's salaries show up in different categories or something.
Yes, ma'am. And it's across the board. The increase is across the board, but with us picking this one up double, it could very well have been what caused some of that because it's about $80,000. So that's about what this would be, the difference.
Okay, that part I still don't understand, but it's not to do with Commissioner Rousseau's question, so it's something we should talk about later.
Question actually answers that question also. You're asking why they weren't exactly double.
But-
the 1.45% was a little bit more, so it could actually cost.
An $80,000 difference? Huh. Okay, that I just is something we should talk about more later and not interrupt Commissioner Rousseau.
Okay, in that same department, line item 412, drug screens and physicals. I realize it's a small amount, but we talked about the fact that those are now paid out of the healthcare sales tax and that we were going to pull that 3,500 out of there.
Yes, ma'am. This is the amount that we have keep in there for after accidents. The new hires we do out of healthcare sales tax, but the accidents, if there's someone who has an accident and requires a drug screen, they're paid out of this line item.
Thank you for that explanation. Okay. So I'm going to page 47, the extension office. I think we'd agreed that the two temp that we share with A&M College Station, that those agents would receive a 5% increase based on their performance evaluations received for the last 3 years. So when I'm looking and comparing the difference from the budget sheet that we had on 8/29 versus the one we received, excuse me, for 8/15, under part-time help, the 8/15 proposed 13,921 for salaries. And the new version we received is now at 34,042.
Yes, ma'am, that is, we included the marine agent in that is what the increase is.
Did we make a decision that we were going to add a marine agent this year? I remember we heard a presentation from the gentleman and from Ginger, but I don't remember that we all said that we would add a marine agent.
No, we didn't. I had it put in. We can take it out if the Commissioners Court wants to. I think it's a good idea since we live on the water, but that's.
Well, the question's not really whether it's a good idea, but whether we need to vote on it as a court, concluding that it's a good idea by a majority. It might very well be that it would pass a vote, but we skipped a vote.
Normally, if we have something proposed, we include it in the budget. And then if you want to do it, the money is there to do it. But if you vote for it after we've passed the budget, then we won't have the money to fund the position.
Okay, well, accepting that something's being in the budget is not the same as it's having been approved as an expense. I think there probably are several examples of things in the budget that we've not yet voted to award to anyone.
Wouldn't that all be accomplished when we vote on the budget?
No, even when we vote on the budget, we haven't actually accomplished the extra step of voting to spend money on a particular item. I mean, for instance, there's a lot of money in the budget for fiber optics, but that doesn't mean we wouldn't have to vote on awarding a contract to build them.
Right.
That we were going to vote later on the question of whether the Harvey bonuses should be added to salary. And I believe the agreement was at the time, yes, that requires a motion and a vote, even if it's in the budget. There are a lot of, I mean, any kind of salary increase would require a vote besides being in the budget. The judge's point, I think, is just if you expect to be able to do it next year, you better put it in the budget now, even if you're not required to spend something just because it's in the budget.
Exactly. And this position would be brought back to Commissioners Court. It's just we are actually have the money in the budget to fund it should court decide to add the position.
And if we don't add the position, we don't use the money.
Exactly.
But we've overstated what we really needed the budget to be for next year. And
No,
I'm fine and I understand putting it in the budget with the idea that maybe we'll fill it next year, maybe we won't. What I'm not fine with is that we didn't get a memo of some sort that showed what had been added, because I know you presented us with a memo on one of the first iterations of reviewing the budget, but this wasn't added. And there's another question I have right below that. The temporary help went from 37,103 to 59,406. Why did that increase?
That includes, the temporary is the agents. And that includes the two agents with their increase that they requested, the 5%, as well as the marine agent.
Then why did the part-time help line item increase significantly? Because it went up by 21,000 over what the 815.
I'll
version
have to
was.
review that one, Commissioner, because I'm not sure exactly why.
Yeah, we have a total increase.
We do have a one part-time, but that one is not 34,000.
Yeah, we have a total increase of a little over 42,000. And the components that we know of so far are the marine agent, who may or may not be voted on, and some rather minor salary increases. And I can't make those components add up to 42,000. I think that's where we're coming
Right.
from.
We will look at that, commissioners, and verify that prior to us adopting, and I will be sure that each one of you get a detailed on any of the changes that I make
Yeah, that'd be,
based on this.
it's kind of like getting a red line of a contract. If there's, especially this late in the process, we could really use a summary of any, I mean, not stuff that's $10 here and $10 there, but big changes would help.
We do have an item on the agenda to be able to discuss all of this also, so
Sure,
If
but we
we
need
have
something
any-
in writing, I guess is what we're saying. And it would help to have it in advance so we have a chance to, review.
yes, ma'am.
But yeah,
that
we
will be
need to
done.
discuss it later. I hear you.
Commissioner Russo?
I have some other questions about the hotel occupancy tax, but I'll save that until we get to the main agenda.
Any other comments on the proposed county 2023 budget?
Yes. I'm looking at more of a 30,000 foot aerial view. The ending unreserved fund balance is now projected to be about 7,000,066. And I forgot to bring my old budget with me. I thought I remembered it being closer to 7.5 million last time we looked at it. Whatever the difference is in the remaining fund balance, if it's in the neighborhood of hundreds of thousands of dollars, I'm just hoping you could give us kind of a feeling for what's the extra that caused a couple $100,000, several $100,000 to go up.
That is applying a 5% COLA across the board. The initial one did not include that.
And a 5% COLA is something over 500,000. So
Yes,
that's
ma'am.
the
It's
biggest
right at-
piece of that.
yes.
Okay, I
It
got
was
it. Thank you.
almost 600,000.
It's almost 600,000, yes.
I have one other question. The request that we heard from Mr. Shostrom from the EDC to increase the 12,000 allocation that we'd been giving to the LGC and just make a direct contribution of $21,750 to the EDC. I'm not sure if that's included in the 829 version of the budget. If it is included, I'm curious what department and where it's included. And I'm also curious, and I believe that I sent a request to Ms. Osteen of if we had a need to, rather than just award marketing services agreement to EDC, that we should do an RFP. Because some members of the community asked if we were going to do that, we should do an RFP and see what other sorts of interest there were in that. And I know Ms. Osteen's been covered in many things. And I am just putting that out there. I'm not sure that this is something we can just arbitrarily decide that we're going to award marketing responsibilities to a group without some kind of an RFP process.
And I must have gotten a request from the same people, but was not aware that Commissioner Russo received it and had also passed it on to Mrs. Steen. But I have the same issue. I know that the EDC statute may have all kinds of exceptions in it, and I was comfortable with how they applied when we were making the award to the LGC, which is a governmental unit that responds to open requests, open records requests, and so forth. I'm just not sure how it applies now that we're apparently dropping the LGC out of the process and going straight to the EDC with our money, EDC being a private entity, not a governmental entity.
Commissioners, one thing that we could consider doing would be entering into a contract with the EDC that sets forth the requirements for funding and would have reporting requirements. So even if that entity does not respond to public information requests because it doesn't, it's not subject to the public information request, we could build a contract that has enough elements in it that the information that we would want would be available even if the public information request is not. For example, we could ask that, just like the other entities that receive funding from the Commissioners Court, they give a quarterly report that lists the different categories where funds are spent. And you could even go further and ask for detailed spending in certain situations. Those are things that you could talk about doing. As far as an RFP, because of the nature of the organization and what it does for this specific county, I think it is a little bit different than if you were giving general marketing dollars to an organization, because these dollars would be used solely in Aranzas County because it is an Aranzas County entity. If you submit an RFP, or pardon me, solicit proposals with an RFP, you're getting responses from marketing entities in theory that could be anywhere doing anything. It'd be much more difficult to follow the trail of the money to make sure those funds are spent directly in Aranzas County if you're using an entity that extends beyond Aranzas County. Those are just my initial thoughts, and I'm sorry I haven't been able to
That's okay.
respond to your questions in a more prompt way, but I will continue to look at that. And if there's any additional information that comes to light, I'll be happy to bring it to you.
Again, it's only a budget item and we haven't actually approved the expense. The reasons that you give for why it might be a special situation with the EDC might bear very heavily in how we evaluated any responses to an RFP, and they might even make it very likely that the EDC would win the competition. But I was really more asking the technical question of, are we in the clear from the statute's point of view, skipping an RFP? And normally we don't get to skip them just because we're pretty sure they won't be that helpful. It may be that there's an exception and that we don't have to, but that's the part I don't understand yet.
And to answer the question, Commissioner Russo, about the funding, that is not funded by hotel motel funds. It is funded out of our general fund under non-departmental, and we pay for it out of professional services.
So it's in 409.
Yes, ma'am.
And when this revision was done, was the revision done to include the 21 that he asked for rather than the 12?
We currently have $124,000 in there, which would cover it. That's just in anticipation of legal fees or other professional fees that we have to pay. So the money is in there. It's
Wait.
not.
There's 124,000 set aside for the EDC or
No,
generally for
ma'am.
professional?
There's 124,000 set in that line item that we would use for the EDC. So the request is in there. There's ample funds in that department, in that fund line item to cover that invoice.
Sorry, just to clarify, the way you use the words might sound to the public like you're saying $124,000 available to the EDC. I think what you mean is there's $124,000 fund of which a small piece might come out to the EDC because it's a professional expense.
There's $124,000 in the line item that we pay EDC out of. It is for any professional services that the county would need. So it will cover the request for the EDC.
But the increase request for the EDC so far is just 8,000.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I have one question for the auditor then. When fees for professional services are paid out of that fund, do we, the court, receive notice of it in any way other than it's in the list of the accounts payable that the assistant auditor sends out?
It's possible that you will, if it's something that court has to vote on, that's something special. Yes, ma'am, it would be brought to court. I mean, this is a line item that we use for a lot of things, but with it being a non-departmental, court normally would get a notice of something that was paid out of there. Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, it's announced the date, 2023 budget to be adopted, be September the 12th
Yes, sir.
at our regular meeting. And announce the date of the 2022 proposed tax rate will be adopted the same time. There's nothing more to discuss. I have a motion.
Move to adjourn. Second.
Motion made and second. Commissioner Cheney, roll call.
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline,
Aye.
Commissioner Russo,
Aye.
Commissioner Laubach,
Aye.
Judge Mills.
Unanimous. All right, now, please stand and join me. Oh, wait a minute. Let's do that. Yeah. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag.
I pledge
I pledge
allegiance
allegiance
to
to
the
Texas,
one state, under God,
one and indivisible. Please join me for the invocation. Dear God, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the rain that you blessed the county and other areas. Thank you for perhaps a decrease in the number of fires, but we realize it's still a dangerous situation out there. We pray for wisdom for this court as we make decisions that impact our community and the greater area beyond that. Thank you for the gift of your son and for the salvation that's offered through him. We ask you above all else to be with us this day and always. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney,
Here.
Commissioner Casterline,
Here.
Commissioner Russo,
Here.
Commissioner Laubach,
Here.
Judge Mills.
Here, we have a quorum, and I don't have any list of anybody that wants to talk, citizens to be heard. So we do have a presentation and presentation from Jason Tunnell, Director of Mission Aranzas National Estuaries Research Reserve, on the revised and expanded investigation into the valued potential containment of Port Bay. Come on, Mr. Tunnell.
Okay, good morning. Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
morning.
Today, I think I presented to y'all what, 6 weeks ago, maybe 8 weeks ago
In April.
in April. Time flies.
Yeah.
So today I'm basically going to give you the same presentation, but there's an addition to the project in a different way that if y'all approve that the money would go so that more money goes to the project for the benefit of the area. This presentation is about Port Bay and a possible contamination and doing an investigation to see if there is any contamination. Myself, Dr. Jean-Fei Liu, and Dr. Kristen Nielsen, they could not be here today. They're teaching class at the university. So they had me here. So if there's any really technical questions about sampling methodology and stuff like that, just let me know and I can get back with them and answer those today for you. But I'm going to go through the basics here. As mentioned last time, and a lot of y'all probably know, is the Mission Aranzas Research Reserve. There's actually 30 reserves around the country. We're one of them. We're the only ones in Texas. Our kind of core boundary that we work in is within Copano and Aranzas Bay. You can see this map right here. The red line is kind of our core area that we work in, but we also have projects outside of that. So I have circled here in blue the red beds, and that's what we'll be talking about today. And so this is right on like our kind of boundary that we work in. So we're very interested if there's any type of contamination, we want to know about it. And so we've developed a project here to be able to look at that. So Port Bay concerns after Hurricane Harvey, there was, y'all know, a lot of wind, rain, and a video had come out that looked like there could have been some contamination in Port Bay because of that storm and from the bauxite tailing ponds here. So there's been quite a few different projects that have been done, or I'd say research studies, looking at things like mercury. Mercury and PAHs are one of the key things that you might find if there was contamination of these tailing ponds. There's also fluoride, aluminum, radium, and uranium. Some of the previous investigation looked at groundwater wells, sediment from the land and running off into the water, water samples taken, although not in Port Bay itself, and then in water samples, but again, it was not within Port Bay. It was around the ponds. So you'll see 5 stations here on the map. This is what I presented last time, and this would be what we're calling goal 1. And then goal 2 is going to be the additions that I did not talk to you about last time. And there's a separate map that has more stations on there. But these 5 stations here is what I presented last time. And it's I'm going to go through each one of those. And so this project period would go from starting next month, September 2022 through March 2024. So the goal 1, this is what I presented last time with a small tweak that I'll talk about. The blue dots on here is the same as that map I showed you earlier with the 5 dots, but the five dots here is what we're talking about. And we'll be looking at water and sediment. So within the water, we'll be looking at total mercury, uranium, radium, PAHs, and then some nutrients, as well as chlorophyll A. In the sediment, we'll be looking at total mercury and PAHs. And then kind of the tweak I was talking about was initially we were just going to do the 10 centimeters in depth of the sediment, but we're actually going to purchase a coring device that allow us to go in a meter in, which is 3 feet. And we're going to try to go in the full meter, but on some of these areas, if the ground is too hard, we'll probably only be able to get 1.5 feet. But this isn't an effort to be able to get deeper down and see what's going on in the sediment.
Question, what's a PAH?
Polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbon.
Oh, I had to ask that, didn't I?
That's why we say PAH, but it's like a lot of times you find coming out of your cars, they'll be on roadways and stuff like that, but it's also part of the process that, and some of the contaminants you would find from the bauxite. Okay, so collections would start on this portion of the project for goal 1 would start this next month in September. And hopefully we'd be able to get the raw data. I know when I presented last Monday to the navigational district and they wanted data as soon as possible. And we realized that. And so we would be trying to get the raw data to everybody by December, if everything goes well. And the reason I say that is because it really is determines that mercury and PAHs, we're sending that off to a TCEQ and EPA certified laboratory, because if anything does come back contaminated, we want the EPA and TCEQ to be able to recognize that it came from a laboratory that was processed. Yes, sir.
Since the city of Ingleside discharges their treated effluent into that long line there that ends up in, I think it's in bed 1. Are y'all going to test the inflow from the treatment plant to see if, as a non-point, that might be a possible part of pollution, if in fact there is any?
We're not testing anything in the beds, and we're not testing the wastewater going into the beds.
Don't you think that's a good idea to do, though?
Well, if we find contamination outside of the beds, yes, I think we need to start looking at other possibilities of, where this might have come from.
Sample that?
If it's wastewater, TCEQ, I believe, is required to sample wastewater. Actually, it might be self-reported. I don't know on that for sure.
I think that's something that needs to be considered, because it only takes an instant to really cause a problem in a wastewater treatment plant. I'm not saying they're having any trouble there at all. This is a great way to polish the water as it comes in.
Yeah.
But
That's TC accused, Commissioner.
Yeah, that sounds like it's might be a little bit different than what we're trying to sample for, which would be contamination due to Hurricane Harvey impacts and the material that was in the beds getting out versus the wastewater that's going into the ponds currently.
I don't think I agree with that at all, but we'll
Okay.
move on.
Okay. Okay, so I'll go to goal 2. This is the yellow dots here, and there's 8 of those, and these you'll notice are within the bay. And we would have, looking at this similar type thing in water and in sediment with total mercury pHs and then nutrients. But what's different here is we're also going to be adding in oysters. And so if you know anything about oysters, filters of the water and bioaccumulation, and if there's going to be contamination, that's likely where you would see it. So we'll be looking at oysters there as well. The 3 different sampling times. So, initially with the goal 1, that's a one-time event sampling in those locations. This is actually 3 sampling events. One this fall, then in the spring, summer of next year, and then the winter of next year, and then writing up the report. And these samples as well will be going to a certified lab. So I'll be going through the budget here. I have an itemized budget coming up in the next slide, but the coast, luckily you'll see here, the Coastal Bend Bays and Estuaries program is matching what the Aranzas County and NAV district had said that they would put in for the initial project. And Adrian Hilmy is here from the Coastal Bend Bays and Estuaries program. He's a project manager there and was key in helping to review what the project would look like and then adding in the additional sampling that could be done for a total of 58,000. Now there's also an additional match of 20,000. Myself, Kristen Nielsen and John Fay Lou are not taking any salary. And so the budget I'm going to show you is for hiring a postdoc for 5 months to be able to actually do the sampling and analysis, of course, with our oversight. So here's the itemized budget. Personnel salary, a little over 22,000 with the fringe rate that the university has of close to 31%. Travel is for a boat and vehicle to be able to go out in those sampling events. Supplies is going to include all the bottles and gloves and the coring device at $1,200. No equipment. Contractual is all going to the certified laboratory for EPA and TCEQ. So the total direct cost is a little over 50,000. And then the indirect cost is the Coastal Bend Bays and Estuaries program charges 15% on salaries only. If the money came directly to the university and not going through the estuary program, then the indirect cost would be 58.5%. And so very little of your funding would actually be going towards the project, be going to overhead. So we think that going to the Coastal Bend Bays and Estuaries program, and then university would get contract with the Coastal Bend Bays and Estuaries program would be the most efficient thing to do, if y'all agree with that. With that, that's my presentation. I'll be happy to take any questions. If anything's too technical, I also put not just my email up there, but John Fay and Kristen's as well.
Chase, do you feel like you've covered everything that we should be sampling?
Yes, initially I had talked to you about the project that we had submitted to the estuary program, where we had some looking at fisheries, 3 different species of fish, sea trout, redfish, all that kind of stuff. So we had to cut some of the stuff out because the project we had submitted to the estuary program was for 71,000. And so going down to the 29,000, I think that for what we're sampling, we're going to get to, if there's contamination out there in Port Bay, we're going to find it. And if there's not, the hope is we don't find anything. But if we do, then we can look at next steps. And really the next steps would be with the state and federal agencies.
Thank you for coming today, and thank you to Coastal Bend Bays and Estuary Program for supporting this effort also.
Any other questions? Thank you, Jace.
Thank you. I'll put handouts here, if anybody wants them, right out there.
Hey, is that the same that we already have in our
It
packet?
might be, it says Coastal Bend Bays and Estuaries Program, and it says protecting our bays and estuaries. And this is the project proposal kind of form that we submit to them. I can just hand it to y'all if you
please.
prefer.
If it's not, everybody, the public already has access to what's in the agenda packet, but this is, if this is different, I'll add it. Thank you.
Jim, do we need to change the way that we approve funding it, not only to take care of the large project, but giving the money to Coastal Bend Bays and Estuaries instead of?
Commissioner, I'd have to look at the agreement that was approved to be able to answer that question. That's something I can do after the meeting today. And if there's a need to come back and vote on this item again, we can do that at a later meeting. That's a very good question, Commissioner.
We do have an action item
On the
later on
agenda.
on this agenda to discuss recognizing the amount that the Coastal Bend Bays and Estuaries is putting in along with what the NAV district and Aransas County is doing.
That's not, okay. We already approved an agenda item in the past, correct?
Right.
So the agreement that is on for item 10 today is to replace the previous agreement or to supplement the previous agreement?
Right, to include the doubling of the, because of the matching funds.
So it's to replace the previous item.
It would
Yes, ma'am.
get to double the scope.
Okay, I wasn't clear on that until right now. So Commissioner Casterline, that does answer the question that after the vote today on item 10, should it be approved, there'd be no additional action needed.
All right.
Jason, when you were giving your presentation, did you have all of these pages up on the screen already or just a couple of them? I asked because if it's already in the video, I don't need to do anything more.
Okay, no, I didn't put any of
Some
this.
pages, but not others.
Right.
I mean, I saw
So
the budget, but okay, never mind.
Right.
I'll take care of it.
All right, consent agenda. We have two items. The second item being a donation to animal control. Thank you, Mr. Paul and Helen Thomas, for the $200 donation. We appreciate that. And Lori, keep up the work.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second that.
Motion made and second, Commissioner Russo. Any discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline,
Aye.
Commissioner Russo,
Aye.
Commissioner Laubach,
Aye.
Judge Mills.
Aye, unanimous. Item number 4.
I move to approve order number 0232022, an order of the County of Aransas, Texas, prohibiting outdoor burning for a period of up to an additional 30 days due to the existence of conditions that have created public safety hazard that would be exacerbated by outdoor burning.
I'll second that.
Motion made and second, Commissioner Cheney. Any discussion?
I would like to suggest that we make this one a short one and revisit it at the
Ma'am, I
next
can
meeting.
lift that at any time. We already shortened it from 90 days to 30 days.
Yes, but we have 10 days of rain in the forecast. And I would like to revisit it at the next meeting the second Monday in September.
That's fine.
So I would like to amend the motion to say instead of a 30-day burn order, a burn ban to extend through September 12th only, and then extended past then only if we vote again. But if that won't draw a second, I guess we're back to the 30 days.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline,
Aye.
Commissioner Russo,
Aye.
Commissioner Laubach,
Aye.
Judge Mills.
Aye, unanimous. Item number 5.
Move to approve order O-22-2022, an order to petition Mary Thornhill to close, abandon, and vacate a portion of the platted 60-foot right-of-way of Main Street lying between Block 91 and Block 103, Lamar Town Site, Aransas County, Texas.
Second, Commissioner Cheney, or Casterline. Roll call. Oh, any discussion? I'm sorry.
Can we hear quickly from Kat or whoever has reviewed this?
Kat,
Yes,
are you-
ma'am. I am here. This petition to abandon this right of way is to so that the property owner can get a permit from the GLO to do bulkhead hardening. This same owner had petitioned previously to abandon the portion of Main Street in front of her property and was granted this. She has acquired lots next to it, and this right-of-way abandonment would allow her to continue with that shoreline bulkhead permitting.
Thanks.
Any further discussion? If not, roll call.
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline,
Aye.
Commissioner Russo,
Aye.
Commissioner Laubach,
Aye.
Judge Mills.
Aye, unanimous.
I move to approve a request for variance on county subdivision regulations on minimum lot size requirements to replat 1020 Hickory Avenue from 2 lots into 1.
Second.
Motion made and second, Commissioner Laubach. Any discussion?
Cat, is this another one of the ones that it's grandfathered, so we don't have the authority to make them stop using a septic tank, but we would rather have a larger lot, even though it's not quite up to our half-acre preferred size?
Correct. This is for septic upgrades, and it's a requirement through TCEQ.
I don't think there's any other option in that area. There's not, sewer's not anywhere near that.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline,
Aye.
Commissioner Russo,
Aye.
Commissioner Laubach,
Aye.
Judge Mills.
Aye, unanimous.
I move to approve a request for variance of the Aranzas County floodplain management order number 023/2019, Article 4, Section F, subsection 1A for lot 18 and lot 22 of the Cape Valero Unit 1 subdivision to allow fill and slab on grade construction.
Second.
Motion made and second, Commissioner Laubach. Any discussion?
Kat, you got anything on it?
Yes, sir. This is not a request to change the elevation requirements. This is a request to allow for a monolithic slab. It's based on the location of the lots and the surrounding already constructed properties. The intention is to prevent coastal homes from being at risk of scouring and encouraging the open foundations like pier and beam. And we are working with the HOA for the lots that would be subject to this risk of wave action. This would not change the elevation requirement. It would be to allow for a slab on grade constructed home.
And all the houses in the area are currently slab on grade, aren't they?
Yes, sir. In this area, most of the homes are outside of the 100-year floodplain and are not subject to the prohibition of structural fill. These 2 lots in this variance request are the only unconstructed lots in this area that are not outside the 100-year floodplain. And there has been, even after the wave action from Hurricane Harvey, the homes that were constructed as slab on grade in this area did not appear to have damages from the scouring that an open foundation is meant to mitigate. And so this, the only impact that this would have, hopefully, would be the insurance premiums for the owner who knows this and understands that.
Any other discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline,
Aye.
Commissioner Russo,
Aye.
Commissioner Laubach,
Aye.
Judge Mills.
Aye, unanimous.
I move to approve a request for variance on county subdivision regulations on minimum lot size requirements to replat 118, 120, and 122 Canvasback Lane from 3 lots into 2 lots.
I'll second that.
Motion seconded 3 times.
I do have a question, Kat. The
Yes, ma'am.
agenda memo that we received, towards the bottom where you put X's showing public water, public sewer, on-site septic, the X's are not lined up with those categories. So can you just confirm where those 2 X's were supposed to lie?
Yes, ma'am. That should indicate that there is public water, but there is no public sewer, and that These properties have septic or on-site sewer facilities approved by environmental health on May the 4th.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
And if I could request, this replat that has been pending due to some discussions regarding a drainage easement, I would request that the motion be amended to approve the plat on the condition that before recording, the final plat has met all the drainage requirements that the county engineer requires.
Second that.
Who made the motion? You made the mo-
Made the motion.
I move that the agenda item be amended to include the requirement that the drainage requirements just cited by Cat Como be resolved before the replatting is approved.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded, Commissioner Cheney. Any discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline.
Aye.
Commissioner Russo,
Aye.
Commissioner Laubach,
Aye.
Judge Mills.
Aye, unanimous. Item number 9.
I move to approve declaring the Aransas County 2009 Ford Explorer as surplus.
Second it.
Motion made and seconded, Commissioner Cheney. Mr. Brown, is that Explorer beyond being able to move to a different department if somebody needs some kind of transportation?
Oh, we can, sir. We can possibly do it. The reason why I wanted to declare it as a surplus is because if we do repair it, it might be pretty close to maybe a quarter to a half of the cost of the repairing the vehicle will be just about as much as the
Never
value
mind.
of the vehicle.
Never mind, forget what I said.
Yes, sir.
Can you, that brings up the issue though, is this when you take into account the cost of the new truck you're also proposing in this agenda and the trade-in value of the old one, is the excess new cost already in your budget?
Yes.
All right, no further discussion. Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline.
Aye.
Commissioner Russo,
Aye.
Commissioner Laubach,
Aye.
Judge Mills.
Aye. Item 10.
Move to approve the purchase of a 2022 Ford Explorer for the amount of $43,733.75. Approve of using the surplus 2009 Ford Explorer as a trade-in and authorizing the county judge and our county staff to execute necessary documents.
I'll second that.
Motion's second, Commissioner Russo. Is this the vehicle that Mr. Reed drove into the ground?
No, sir.
Oh, okay.
That's the difference. Now, this purchase was in our current budget.
Yes, sir.
I'd just like to make it my standard plea for it. When you guys are putting together your staff memos, proposing these things, they're often quite routine. And the only other piece of information I'm often missing is it already in budget?
Yes,
It-
ma'am.
you know,
I
are you
apologize
proposing
for
a-
that. I'll
taking
make sure and
something-
put that in the next one.
The big question is always, does it come out of general reserve or already in your budget?
It's already in the budget. Yes, ma'am.
Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline.
Aye.
Commissioner Russo,
Aye.
Commissioner Laubach,
Aye.
Judge Mills.
Aye, unanimous. Item number 11.
I move to approve Resolution R 22-2022, a resolution authorizing the adoption of the Hart Intercivic Verity version 2.5 voting system, authorizing the county judge and/or the Aransas County Elections Administrator to execute necessary documents, providing for severability and certifying compliance with the Open Meetings Act.
Second.
Second, Commissioner Castelline.
Now, this is not about buying equipment or software, but just about undertaking to use the new system. Is that what we're doing?
That is correct. The equipment's already been purchased, and this is just the court's formal adoption of that voting system for use in the county.
No
And-
additional money involved.
I'm sorry?
No additional money involved.
No.
And it doesn't seem like we normally do this. Is this a special statutory requirement?
And it should have been done in the past.
So we're doing it now.
Should have just been
Yes.
lumped in when we were buying it.
Right.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline.
Aye.
Commissioner Russo,
Aye.
Commissioner Laubach,
Aye.
Judge Mills.
Aye, unanimous.
Move to approve entering into a memorandum of understanding between Aransas County and the Children's Coalition of Aransas County to express mutual agreement for the county to promote affordable and high-quality childcare services for the county's employees and for the Children's Coalition of Aranzas County to provide such services at its new Child Development Center in Rockford, Texas.
Second.
Second, Commissioner Laubach. Hello,
My initial question always is, we're not spending money here, is that right?
that's right.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to tell you a
Give us
little bit more about that. As you well know, Children's Coalition has been looking at, yes, sir.
Identify yourself for the
I'm
record.
sorry, I'm Diane Nielsen with the Children's Coalition of Aransas County. And I have with me Megan Glidden, who is the president of the Board of Executive Board of the Commission of Coalition. So the Children's Coalition has been addressing needs of families and children in our community for about 5 years now. And this particular memorandum of understanding is a part of our hope that we're going to receive some funding from the Workforce Commission. There's a childcare expansion project underway. And in order to qualify for this project, one of the qualifications is that there be memorandum of understandings with local entities that you will support the effort to provide childcare. There's no money involved. What we're asking is that you share with your employees that childcare is available in our community through the Children's Coalition's program.
Where's your facility going to be, or where is it?
I'm glad you asked. We've been working for, about 1.5 years to get this project underway, and we are kind of on the home stretch right now. We are going to be at 922 Highway 35 South. It's the building that once upon a time was all hands and hearts, and right now there's a martial arts studio that's in a portion of the building. We have dealt with construction delays and cost overruns and all of those wonderful things that you deal with in this day and age. But we are on the home stretch. We expect to start moving our admin people, and equipment is starting to be delivered this week. And our target opening date is October 3rd. I've shared with you some information about the program. It's going to be a very high quality early childhood program that's going to meet national standards above and beyond state minimum standards. Our teachers will all have degrees in early childhood education. There's going to be a very strong parent engagement component, because what we've learned is that the child abuse rate in Aransas County is significantly greater than the state average. And I think part of that is the parents need support and need education and need help understanding how to manage 2-year-olds tantrums and those kinds of challenging behaviors. And so we're going to be working with parents very closely on helping them parent.
And the ages?
We're going to focus on infants and toddlers. And so we're going to have our largest group will be from birth to age 3. We will also have a 3 to 5-year-old classroom, and we'll do limited before and after school care, primarily for the siblings of the younger children for the family's convenience.
I'd just like to take a minute to thank you and Megan and all your volunteers and a voluntold for all your hard work in getting this done, and much needed project done for Aransas County and the people here.
Well, thank you
very
so much. We really appreciate the support of our community. It has been a leap of faith, and so we appreciate your support.
And before we sit down, you did get an invitation to a preview party that is coming up, so we'd like to invite you all to that. But about 4 weeks away. Got a lot of work to do. And I'd also like to recognize Diane. She got a really wonderful award this past month, and she'll be recognized on September 15th. She is going to be awarded the Children's Advocate of the Year through the Texas Association for the Education of Young Children. And that is a very, very big deal in that community. So we'd like to recognize her for that as well.
Congratulations.
Diane, I have one question. I'm a huge supporter of you and everything that you've done for children in this community. And I know, even as you were speaking, you were talking about early childhood, early children, and that was how I understood this was to help supplement. So I was surprised, I guess, when I saw that you had in here ages 6 weeks through 12 years, because I was concerned if it would complement or compete with the ISD. But what you've explained is for the older kids, it's mostly going to be after-school programs because their siblings are there in the classes and they'll be able to come until the parent can pick them up.
Exactly. It's a very limited part of
All
our
right.
program.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline.
Aye.
Commissioner Russo,
Aye.
Commissioner Laubach,
Aye.
Judge Mills.
Aye. Unanimous.
Move to approve entering into a memorandum of understanding between the Texas Division of Emergency Management, Texas Emergency Management Assistant Team Program, Valerie Gonzalez, and Aranzas County to set forth the terms and conditions of Gonzalez's serving on the Disaster Recovery Task Force, which includes the county permitting her participation for up to 5 years and authorizes county judge to execute the MOU.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Commissioner Cheney, any
But-
discussion?
This sounds like a great honor for Valerie, and I'm pleased to see it. I just need to understand, is there any budget impact?
No. Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline.
Aye.
Commissioner Russo,
Aye.
Commissioner Laubach.
Aye.
Judge Mills.
Aye. Unanimous. Item 14.
I move to approve amendment number 3 to Community Development Block Grant Disaster Recovery Grant Contract number 20-065098-C270, administered by the Texas General Land Office to extend the term of the contract through August 31, 2024, to revise language to reflect all project activities and to reallocate funds in the project budget, to revise the federal assurances and certifications, affirmations, and the lists of laws, and to replace certain language in the contract with new required language at no additional encumbrance of grant funds or local funds.
Second.
Second, Commissioner Laubach.
And that
Questions?
last phrase is the one I like. Can you just walk us through what the changes are?
Well, what we've done is it's primarily, we've asked for an extension of time. And we've asked to take the $10 million or so, 10.7 that we had in the hospital fund and just distribute it to the various projects. And then the rest of it is just language that they needed to change in the paperwork in the contract.
And so we're referring to the is it 53 million.
$53.9 million grant, yes.
And at one time, I think about 39 million of that was going to be roads and bridges. Is
Right.
the 10.7 all going, roads and drainage? Is the 10.7 that's coming off of the hospital fund all going into roads and drainage, or is it being spread out among
It's
these?
being spread out.
And
Most of it's into drainage, roads and drainage. A little bit of it's going to community building and a little bit of it's going to the radio tower.
Okay, and remind me what was in the 53 million that was not roads and drainage and was not hospital?
There are 3 projects. There was
Community
the
building.
parking lot, which came in under budget. Then we had the radio tower, which came in over budget. And then we have the community center, which came in over budget.
Okay,
The
so we're taking,
original bid was over budget.
so we're taking a little to cover the community
Cover
building and
the
the radio
costs of
tower,
those, yes,
and the rest is being spread out among roads and drainage.
yes.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline.
Aye.
Commissioner Russo,
Aye.
Commissioner Laubach,
Aye.
Judge Mills.
Aye. Unanimous.
I
I'm-
move to approve authorizing county judge to submit required electronic documents, the Texas Department of Information Resources, to certify Aransas County's compliance with Texas Government Code 2054.5191, which mandates personnel to complete an annual state certified cybersecurity training course.
Second.
Second, Commissioner Laubach.
I had one question.
Of course.
I noticed on the list of the employees who completed this, the appraisal district employees are also included.
They are. Because we share the tax office system with them, they have access to some of our computer systems because of the shared. So they are required to take the testing as well.
Great, thank you.
Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline,
Aye.
Commissioner Russo,
Aye.
Commissioner Laubach,
Aye.
Judge Mills.
Aye. Unanimous. Item 16.
I move to approve paying up to $14,500 of the cost of an 18-month study to be conducted by Mission Aranzas National Estuarine Research Reserve for water quality sampling and evaluation for possible contaminants in the Port Bay near Highway 188. The Aransas County Navigation District would pay a matching amount of $14,500, and the Coastal Bend Bays and Estuaries Program would pay the balance of the total estimated cost of $58,000. The Coastal Bend Bays and Estuaries Program share would be approximately $29,000.
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded, Commissioner Cheney.
I think we need to add to this, Jason, I'm not right, that the money, our money will be paid to Coastal Bend Basin and Estuaries.
So we can amend this?
Suggest that we amend that to.
Do you amend that, Commissioner Loa?
Yes, so amended.
I'll second.
And seconded. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline,
Aye.
Commissioner Russo,
Aye.
Commissioner Laubach,
Aye.
Judge Mills.
Aye. Unanimous. Item 17.
I move to approve Resolution R 23, 2022 in support of the Coastal Bend Disaster Recovery Group, recognizing the Coastal Bend Disaster Recovery Group as a long-term recovery group, declaring that Aransas County intends to work cooperatively with other political subdivisions and not-for-profit corporations in the aftermath of disasters to provide resources to citizens, providing for severability and certifying compliance with the Open Meetings Act.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, Commissioner Casterline. Well,
Is this gonna work with y'all to, as far as replacing what this last time?
What we brought last time was an agreement, and this time we're asking for the Commissioners Court to approve a resolution. We visited, Ms. Hale and I, and also Judge Mills, and we've come to the conclusion that what would be best for everybody would be for us to sit down and talk about ways to have an agreement that's more meaningful, that has more terms, and sets for some reporting requirements. So if we are trusting CBD, RG, to provide the individual assistance resources to our citizens, that they also report back to us and give us a little bit more information about what kind of activities take place. I'm sure you want to speak to this too, so I'll yield to you.
Thank you. Of course, we've got Christopher Brandt here. I'm Danielle Hale as a board member for CBDRG. It's a good faith effort. It's a good start. As we've moved through this process with our local communities, we ultimately want to have a singular agreement that works for all of our communities. There were some good questions being brought forward, especially from Commissioner Laubach. And we identified that potentially a different form of the agreement may work better. We hope that we'll continue that conversation. A resolution in itself is at minimum a very strong level of support, and we do appreciate it very much. But we do want to continue our discussions and get to something that's a little bit more clear, again, so that the expectations are understood before we go into a disaster, rather than trying to scramble after the fact to try to come up with something. But thank you, Commissioner. Do you have anything to add?
No, just that Coastal Bend Disaster Recovery Group is part of the community, and as such, we are transparent, and we want to work together with people and be cooperative, and we appreciate any help that we can get. And so anything you guys can, any agreement we can get is a great start for us. We appreciate it.
I also would like to reiterate, and I know that Ms. Hale and I have had some emails back and forth, would still like to see financial reports in summarizing the donations that came into Aransas County and how they were distributed. I'm not asking for any personal, confidential, privileged information, just things that could be shared with the public. Because especially now, as we just finished recognizing, I'm not sure celebrating is the word I'd use, the 5th anniversary of Harvey coming here, it has come up again in conversations with constituents and people in the community. How did that money get spent? So I would appreciate that. Thank you.
And I just want to add, I very much admire the work you did after Harvey and the help that you gave to the community.
Thank you, man. And Commissioner Russo, the invitation continues to stand for us to meet and show you those financials. The way that our construction team noted in each of the description memos, every single row has some level of identifying information. Definitely summary type information, as we've continued to provide through the county's liaison is available. And again, I'll show you what we have, and maybe with your expertise, you can show me, hey, here's a better way that we can share this in the future. But as I mentioned, there's over 2,000 rows of entries just for the Aranzas County. Again, I have that available to show to you, but it has identifying client information on every single record.
I like Commissioner Russo, I'm very interested in a summary of general categories of aid, obviously nothing associated with any particular individuals.
All right then. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline,
Aye.
Commissioner Russo,
Aye.
Commissioner Larbach,
Aye.
Judge Mills.
Aye. And I also would like to thank you for everything that you've done for this community after Harvey. We appreciate it.
I move to approve authorizing the county judge to sign an interlocal cooperation agreement, to sign interlocal cooperation agreements for 2022, 2023 property tax assessment collection upon return of signed agreements by local taxing entities. Local taxing entities are the Aranzas County Navigation District, the City of Rockport, the Town of Fulton, the Aranzas County Municipal Utilities District Number 1, and the Aranzas County Independent School District.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded, Commissioner Russo. Any discussion?
Now, the budget impact of this is what? I think that we're undertaking to cover their requested increase in budget. We approved that increase in budget earlier this year, if I recall correctly. No?
It's an agreement with, for me to be able to collect for the other entities.
Ah.
And they do pay me. So it's my part of every year agreement for my contracts with them to collect their taxes.
This is just purely authorization for you to perform that
It's our
service for all
contracts
of
that we
us.
submit to them every year. They're good from September 1st of this year till August 31st of next year. So
Okay.
we submit these every year. It's so I can collect their taxes.
Thanks.
Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline,
Aye.
Commissioner Russo,
Aye.
Commissioner Larbach,
Aye.
Judge Mills.
Aye, unanimous. This discussion received information from the public concerning the budget issues, including the possibility of changing the current allocation of hotel occupancy tax funds for the year 2023. But Mr. Laubach, this is one that you request being put in there.
It is, and I may have something to add, but Commissioner Rousseau has already indicated that she has items she wants to discuss under this item.
Thank you. When we were hearing presentations 2 weeks ago from different entities, some in the community who were asking for an increase, some in the community who had never received allocations, and some from outside of the community. I know that we sort of look at each other and there seems to be consensus, but perhaps not always. So what I am wanting to bring forward, especially reflecting back on what was said earlier, allocating $16,000 to the Texas Hotel and Lodging Association. They are an out-of-county entity. They receive state hotel occupancy tax. And I received a notice from the treasurer, who is the collecting entity or the collecting person for the county on the hotel occupancy tax, with very reasoned arguments on why that might not be the best use of those funds. I think we all received that information. Essentially, they are out of the state. They do receive money from the state, or excuse me, they are out of the county. And the gentleman did later provide us commissioners with information saying what they could provide. There were a few things that looked favorable, like seminars, but I think 16,000 is a very large chunk of money to give to an entity that's not in Aranzas County. The reverse of that is the rockportfulton.com asked for some allocation. I am not sure the gentleman gave figure.
20,000.
I am thinking that perhaps a $4,000 allocation to start off. I worked at the History Center this weekend when the different facilities were showcasing the Harvey anniversary. And I had people come in from Bastrop and Austin and other places. I asked folks to sign in when they come in so we can track their zip code, even though it's not really a reporting agency at the History Center. And I was told by a couple of those groups who come in that every time they are planning a trip to this area, they check rockportfulton.com. That was a comment I did not solicit. I just was talking to them. We're glad you're here. How'd you find out about this? But they volunteered that information. So that's a very small sample size, I realize. But that to me shows that there are people looking at that. When the gentleman came and gave his presentation, although I salute him for how much he knows on an IT level, he really didn't show what the website produces. He just talked about how many hits he gets and the age and how far that puts him up the scale on when people do a search. But I went onto his website and you can click and it will show you fishing guides. It'll show you restaurants. It'll show you hotels. It'll show you RV parks. I think there is a wealth of information on there. And I think it would be beneficial for us to put some support to him. So I am recommending a $4,000 allocation to the rockportfulton.com site and either no allocation or a significantly reduced allocation to the Texas Hotel and Lodging Association. Perhaps we could give them $4,000 also.
I think what the presentation they gave us was a discounted rate on listing basically all of the people, and the treasurer actually thinks there's more than the 400 and some odd people that they showed as paying us motel tax actually did go not only on their site, but on a site called Travel Texas. And there's really a lot of information on that website, and that's one of the ones that we're going to link.
Right.
The other one, I think the other person needs some type of a sales representative. I think he's a really good IT person, but I think he needs some help, you know. And I kind of really feel like that he should really go to the people who we give money for advertising to get him to help them, you know, to do some of their advertising.
I agree with Commissioner Rousseau's position. I got a lot of comments from the public wondering why we as a county would take money and basically spend it on a state-sponsored website, especially one that not that many people seem to have heard of, whereas we have a really good local website here that draws an enormous amount of public engagement and traffic from people who are interested in spending tourist dollars in Aranzas County. Neither of them really fits what I thought was the traditional profile for somebody that we would give hot funds to, but in listening to the presentation from the Lodging Association, it seemed that we had been a little too narrow in our interpretation of the statute, and that under his interpretation, the rockportfulton.com, really excellent website, useful to the community, would come within our authority to grant funds to. And although he does not run he runs basically a, if not strictly not for profit, at least a barely making ends meet kind of organization, that he doesn't sell ads. And it doesn't make sense to me to tell him he must start to sell ads in order to get our money. What he needs is not ad revenue. He needs money to buy better cameras and drones so that he can put better videos on his website, which are already extremely popular with tourists who might want to come here. And I too believe that there are arguments against using the money for the Lodging Association, but I can see arguments for it as well if we are equally supporting the rockportfulton.com site. And whether it's $4,000 is the right number for each. I mean, I could live with 4 for each, 8 for each, or 20 for each.
I agree that it's a nice website, but I believe we have a legal problem. Is that right?
That doesn't apply equally to the State Lodging Association? Because he
Commissioners,
seemed to speak to this issue when he spoke to us in his presentation, and he claimed to be a legal authority on the limits
Justin,
of
you're
the,
talking about that.
right.
Just law.
Commissioners, I wasn't present for that meeting. I apologize. I would appreciate just having an opportunity. I know that we've talked about this via email briefly. As you know, I've been a little bit
A little bit busy.
a little bit swamped, but I would like the opportunity just to double check and take a look at the statute myself so I can offer an opinion on whether that would be a legal eligible organization to receive hot funds.
We still have a little time.
Ms. Austin, did you receive the email from the gentleman, I think his name was Scott Justlove, not exactly sure, Justlove, who was with the Hotel Association? He attended by Zoom, but he later forwarded to the commissioners.
No,
his-
Commissioner.
Okay,
We should
maybe
forward
it would
that to
be
you.
beneficial. I can send you that if you like.
I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Any other discussion?
I would just also like to make a suggestion, and there's no one from the Chamber of Commerce here, but I'll certainly get with the Chamber of Commerce, that this weekend, considering how much advertisement went out and how much publicity, which was a very good thing and very effective, that the visitor center at the chambers, I would recommend that it be open on Saturdays at least. Because there are a lot of times that I am at the History Center as a docent, and I'm excited if one or two people come in. I had people from the moment I walked in the door until the moment we closed, from 1 to 4. And all of them indicated they had either gone to the Fulton Mansion, they were going to the Fulton Mansion, and they were planning on going to the depot, but they could not go to the visitor center because it's not open on Saturday. And that might be some recommendation. I know Commissioner Casterline,
Thought it was open on Saturday. I know I see their cars there on the week.
on that promotional brochure they did, it was not, and actually I called over there because I thought maybe they usually aren't, but this is the initial weekend, maybe they will be, but no one answered. And the voice said, we're open, Monday through Friday.
All
That'll
right.
just be a recommendation.
Can I do need to get some direction on the Fulton Mansion. Do we want to take that one up to the 4%?
I think that's what we talked about last time. Was there
Okay.
any
I
objection?
mean, okay.
I do.
I mean, we've discussed it, but I just felt like I didn't get, a good-
Full-throated roar of approval.
Exactly.
They're one of our top attractions in town. I thought for a few years that we should bring them up to equal to the other top ones.
I agree.
Okay, we'll do that.
As far as the two that have been previously discussed, I have a little bit of a problem with spending hotel motel tax in a broader area. I think it's good to have that information out there, and I'm not sure that we shouldn't participate in that. But to me, that's aiding their business singularly. rather
Whose
than
business?
The hotel motel people in
The lodging and the Rockport.
No.
Yeah, I
Fulton.com.
don't have a problem with doing either one of them, but they just don't sit right with me.
You
As
realize
Ms.
Rockport,
Olstein said, we will be looking at the statutes and double checking on that. My concern is operating expenses versus bringing heads and beds.
Yeah.
Which is what the statute is, what the act is for, is to bring people in. I realize that the rockportfulton.com possibly has that, but for us to fund his overhead or his capital may not be something that's eligible.
yeah, I agree. If there's a legal issue, but we can't make it go away. But I do want to point out to Commissioner Cheney that rockportfulton.com, you can call it a business if you think that getting a couple of bucks every month from Google ads over and above your expenses makes you a business. But he runs as close to zero profit as you well can and keep your doors open, and he doesn't take any pay for himself. And he's basically the only person running it. That is not,
Yeah.
we would not be supporting a commercial venture. We would be supporting a basically a free public bulletin board that's proved to engage tens of thousands of people a month for this community.
We will research that and make sure that it is qualifies and let y'all know prior to the 12th when we bring the budget back for adoption.
Do you want me to send the email to you that I'm sending to Jen?
Please.
Okay.
I am very aware of Scott Josleth. He was an attorney with TML when I worked for the cities. So I do know him. So, yeah.
All right, any further discussion? Item 20, schedule a public hearing for 2022 tax rate on Monday, September the 12th, 2022.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, Commissioner Laubach. Any discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline.
Aye.
Commissioner Russo,
Aye.
Commissioner Laubach,
Aye.
Judge Mills.
Aye.
I move to set the time and date to adopt the proposed tax rate at 9 a.m. on September 12th, 2022.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded, Commissioner Russo. Any discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline.
Aye.
Commissioner Russo,
Aye.
Commissioner Laubach,
Aye.
Judge Mills.
Aye.
I
Unanimous.
move to approve the budget line item transfers.
Motion made and seconded, Commissioner Casterline. Any discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline, Commissioner Russo,
Aye.
Commissioner Laubach,
Aye.
Judge Mills.
Aye.
I move to approve accounts payable and payroll/payroll liabilities.
Motion made and seconded, Commissioner Casterline. Any discussion?
You did receive a report. We have payroll liabilities, and we have 3 invoices. One was brought us for the courthouse, and then we have 2 that are fuel. They were late arrivals, and we wanted to be sure that we didn't have any issues with our purchasing fuel, so we did put those in.
And what was the broadest amount? Do you remember?
It was like 12,000. It wasn't a large amount.
All right, thank you.
Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline,
Aye.
Commissioner Russo, Commissioner Laubach,
Aye.
Judge Mills.
Aye, unanimous. Now is the time that any public official, elected official, or department head have anything to bring up. Now's the time to do it. Oh, nothing interesting going on out there. All right. Roll call for adjournment. Or-
Commi-
Fee
Motion
reports?
made and seconded.
Did she have fee reports?
No fee reports.
Okay, then I'll second that.
Second, Commissioner Russo. Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline,
Aye.
Commissioner Russo,
Aye.
Commissioner Laubach,
Aye.
Judge Mills.
Yes. Thank you for attending. We will be back.